call me B Money. Getting money, honey, call me B Money. Not even funny, call me B Money. Living where it's sunny, B for short, don't call me Sir Buddy.
What's up, everyone? Thanks for watching the B Money Show. I'm your host, B Money, and today we're going to do a slightly different video. We're going to talk about why I actually decided to live in Jacksonville. So it's so funny because being from Miami, when I meet people here in Jacksonville, they'll be like, why do you live in Jacksonville? Like, what were you thinking? Like, Miami's so cool. And don't get me wrong, I love visiting Miami, but with that said, there's so many cool things about living in Jacksonville that I just want to take a minute to share with you all, especially because I went on YouTube one time just out of curiosity, like trying to see like, you know, good reasons to live in Jacksonville, and there were no videos. So now there's going to be at least one. Some of you that live in Florida might be familiar with a little program. It's called Florida Prepaid. Basically what that is, it lets you or your parent start saving for your college when you're a baby. So my mom did something called Florida Prepaid, and she was able to start paying for college when I was born. So that has a couple of like, I guess you would say like stuff that it comes with. You have to pick a Florida state school. Now, I didn't have the grades to get into UF or FSU for that matter. I did have the grades to get in UNF, which is a really prestigious school. So I was pretty much deciding between the University of West Florida in Pensacola and the University of North Florida in Jacksonville. Now, I went to a really small private high school. And so I pretty much decided like I want to go to the biggest school that I pretty much can when it comes to going to college. So given that West Florida was a Division II school and North Florida was a Division I school, I figured I would actually go to the University of North Florida. Now, the only reason why I was actually strongly considering the University of West Florida was because I went to a little tryout to possibly play basketball there. And then when it turned out that I wasn't actually going to be playing basketball and it would have had to possibly wait another year to play on the team, then that's where I basically made the decision pretty easy for me. Not to mention, every time I visited Jacksonville, I always had a great time. So I do really love it here. Now, a couple of my top things about Jacksonville, the price of living here is like phenomenal. I bought my house for like $133,000. To tell you that I wouldn't even come close to buying a house like this in Miami is a gross understatement. Like, I'm talking $133,000. What that buys you in South Florida is nothing compares to what that buys you in North Florida. So in terms of sheer cost of living, I've been living like pretty good, even when I was like, you know, working at Joe's Crab Shack on college income part-time. $3,000 a month, it really does go a long way here. And so you don't have to be like super ballin' to be able to afford pretty much any place that you're gonna go to. So between all that, I did of course make a lot of friends here while I was going to school and joined a fraternity. And so I do have friends all over the place here. And so that of course does affect, you know, how much fun that I have here. There's still beaches. The beaches are beautiful. With that said, they are mixed in with the river, so they can be a little murky. I would say overall best beaches would definitely be like in the kind of Gulf area. But Jacksonville, you've still got your beach. The other thing that's really cool about it is the biggest city land-wise, aside from Juneau, Alaska in the continental US. Well, it is the biggest city in the continental US. In terms of actual land. The thing that's crazy is you can get anywhere in like 20 to 30 minutes because of how the highways are built. The highways are built in a way that you can just drive all over the place and you can get pretty much anywhere regardless of where you live in about like 30 minutes. So that is a really good perk in my opinion. The other thing is I love the culture here. It's kind of that, it's got a lot of Southern hospitality aspects to it that you don't really get down in South Florida. Kind of ongoing joke that I'll have is like, you know, if you want Southern hospitality, you got to get north of Orlando. And that's really true. Like, I'll never forget when I first came up here my first semester and like someone just waved at me like passing by. I was like looking behind me like, that guy waving at me? They're waving at me. So anyways, you know, that like took a little bit of an adjustment, but the people here are like phenomenal. And it's really a great area, I think, if you're trying to like raise kids and have a family and that kind of stuff, where It's got a small town vibe where I feel like everybody kind of knows everybody, and I really like that. But at the same time, it's also still a big city. So you never really have too many hard time finding things to do. You've got your rooftop bars, you got your beach bars, you got all kinds of places where you can kind of go and have a good time. One of the other things that I really love here about Jacksonville is like just a lot of the things that you're gonna buy are just gonna be straight up cheaper here. It's funny because when I was looking at rent for like certain places in South Florida versus like North Florida, the rent here is like incredibly cheap in comparison. The first apartment that I ever got when I moved out here and was living on my own officially, I was staying on a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment on the river with a beautiful view of the Trout River, and I was only paying like it was $980 a month, so less than $1,000 for a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, which basically most places in the US is pretty much unheard of. So you have just a lot of money left over to do like all kinds of other stuff that you might like to do. Now, with that said, there are a couple of slight downsides. Your places don't necessarily stay open as late. They're open till 2, a lot of your good bars, so that's nice, but it doesn't really compare to like in South Florida where you got stuff that's open all the time, basically anywhere. But it is definitely no shortage of things to do here if you're actually gonna, you know, go out of your way and try and find stuff to do. Cat Williams is a really good special on Netflix where he talks about the food here, but there is no shortage of just incredible restaurants that you can go to. Now, I live on the north side right now. My plan eventually is to get over to the Riverside area and then from there get to the beach. I've always wanted to have a house like on the actual beach. Granted, that is super pricey, so that's in the long-term plans for sure, but in comparison to some of the other places, living out on the beach here is significantly more affordable, and so that is a great option as well. Living in certain parts of town have like certain benefits as opposed to like other parts of town. Now, like when you live on the north side out here, we've got the River City Marketplace, which is like a couple minutes nearby, but you know, there's no shortage of places where you can go and watch a movie, get your hair cut. The other thing that I really liked about Jacksonville, especially when I first graduated, was there was no shortage of companies hiring. In terms of like if you're trying to find a good place to work and raise a family, Jacksonville has been amazing. In fact, recently I did put in my 2 weeks at Chase because I was actually trying to go and make this YouTube channel and, you know, start recommending credit cards and things of that nature. And I didn't want any conflict of interest, but at no point was I worried like, oh, you know, if I go and I quit working here, like I'm not going to be able to find a job after. I mean, you can go on Indeed in about 2 minutes find a job that pays just as good, depending on, of course, what you're doing. Now, it might not be the easiest place maybe to start a music career, things like that. Obviously, your LA and Miami is a great spot for things like that. But with that said, there are still great studios up here. I use the Endangered Wise Men Studios where I recorded my whole album, and they did like an absolutely phenomenal job. And I've also been using my boy Greg in G3 Media to film all my videos here. So we've got like lots of great talent. You might just have to go slightly out of your way to find it. I did actually hear about lots of these companies through like personal referrals and just kind of talking to people. So there is lots of great talent in Jacksonville, and like you can pretty much do whatever it is that you're trying to do here, especially on account of the fact that there is so much going on, and you know, there isn't that much of it's not like even though it is like a quote-unquote small town, you know, it's not like you're living in Nebraska and, you know, you can't find anyone to do what you need to do. You might have to look maybe a little harder than if you were living in LA or Miami if you're trying to, you know, start a music career or anything like that. But, you know, with a little due diligence and, you know, if you're going to take a little bit of extra time, you can find true professionals here that are doing just great things. And so that's a definite perk for sure. it's got like that whole big city opportunity, but with the small town vibe. And like the vibe for me was huge because, don't get me wrong, I love the US and traveling to all different parts of the US, but if you want to talk about like the South and living in the South, Jacksonville, in my opinion, is where the South kind of starts. And yeah, I've had nothing but great experiences here. I'll also say, like, if you're just kind of a happy person, you'll tend to have fun, like, or you'll tend to like wherever it is that you're at. So when you can see all the different things that are available to you, and living here is so affordable that there's just no excuse to be able to not be able to do what it is that you want to do. So so I totally recommend living in Jacksonville. I've loved it here. If you're someone that is, you know, sick of living in a huge city, or you're someone that's living in like a terribly small city and you want to go to somewhere where there's like more stuff going on, but you don't want to deal with all the culture shock of moving to a big city and like the different kinds of people, Jacksonville is that perfect kind of in between there. In my opinion, it's the perfect combination of rural and urban. And yeah, you will see my Rep My City is all about my time here in Jacksonville, and you're gonna love that song, by the way. I'm super excited to release that. Well, actually, technically speaking, that song's already gonna be out by now.
Call me B Money, getting money, honey. Call me B Money, not even funny. Call me B Money, living where it's sunny. B for short, don't call me sir, buddy.